You go talk to him. You tell him Sal's wife sent you. He's gonna know what to do with you.
I'm gonna make them pay for what they did to you and me, Teresa.
Now there is one character who we haven't spoken about just yet, because he's still yet to make his introduction. But are we set to meet Unique's new alliance, Phil Russo? Could he potentially be making his introduction into the world of power, and into this chess game that we are beginning to see unfold in Season 4? I've mentioned before, when you take a look at the broader look at what's happening at this moment in time in Queens, it really is a chess game amongst a lot of different players. Rock is making a move to dethrone Quan and become the Connect. To achieve that, she has to offer Stefano Marchetti a higher offer than Quan, and so far, we have seen her approach Hafiz, the leader of the Afghans. We don't know whether she's going to be successful as of yet, but let's wait and see. You have to assume at some point Quan will also make a move of his own. There's no way he just bends over. Kanan's also be making moves of his own, through the guidance and mentorship of Snaps and Pop. They're two characters who are also looking at the board at this moment in time, and definitely thinking, and sensing an opportunity with Kanan. A bit later on, they're also going to see the chaos in Queens, looking at it as an opportunity. Marvin's been making moves of his own with Stefano, bringing in Ellie Tyler on board to the Corona operation, something I'm sure that will definitely backfire. And then we have Unique. We all know what Unique's idea is. He wants to break Rock, break her empire, hit her in any and every single possible way, but he can't do that on his own. This is where he's going to need the help of a new Italian crime boss, who goes by the name Phil Russo. So now we're also going to have the addition of a new Italian crime boss as he enters the picture. So that's the topic of discussion in the rest of this breakdown. Unique's introduction to Phil Russo, and how will he change the game once he is in play, in all things Raising Kanan Season 4. Now at this moment in time, Unique's been working solo. It took him a few months to get back up on his feet, but he's been making moves in the shadows as a ghost. The moves that we have seen so far include killing Andre in 402. There was then Richard and Sonny in 403. In 404, he made a short alliance with Damon, where they hit Rock's transportation business, which is run by Terry and David. With this particular hit, there was literally no brains, no plan, no discipline. It was just all guns, shoot on sight. So down went Damon, the only alliance that he's made apart from Ellie Tyler. However, towards the end of episode 404, we did see him taking a short trip over to New Jersey, to the Baselli residence, where he met with Teresa Baselli, Sal Baselli's wife. He mentioned they have something in common, because the enemy of Unique were the same people that not only took out Sal in 302, but they were also responsible for Marco Baselli's death in Season 2. And I was beginning to wonder, when are we going to get our introduction to Phil Russo? We got into episode 4 and we still hadn't seen him, heard him, or got our first real look. But we know with Raising Kanan, they're very patient. They play the long game. They plant the seeds for it to happen when it's supposed to happen. They don't rush things such as, when Unique needs a new connect or an alliance, bang, by the end of the episode he's found one. That's not realistic. He's been moving solo, reached out to Teresa Baselli, and now they've planted the seeds in episode 404, with Teresa giving him a contact. And at the time in my breakdown for 404, I said this has to be Phil Russo. I do think it is time we got our introduction to New Jersey's new crime boss.
You can't be dropping bodies. I wanna look like I never left.
For Unique, at this moment in time, he has no backing, no crew, and he knows there's only so much damage he can cause Rock before he eventually gets rumbled, or where he ends up in a situation like this, or worse. This could have gone very different, just like it did for Damon. That's why he needs to put himself in a really strong position. For Rock, she's backed by Stefano Marchetti. Wherever she moves, she's got bodyguards, she's got Marvin. You look at the strength of Snaps and Pop. The minute Kanan began to raise his voice or come closer to Snaps and Pop in 402, just have a look behind them. They were ready to make their move, just in case. Unique doesn't have that at this moment in time. He's a one-man band. He lost everything back in Season 2. So I do think it is time we see Unique meeting Phil Russo, Unique making a proposition, and something that might be of interest to the Italians across the pond. Because you guys have heard me mention before, the dynamics with the Italian crime families in New York is very complicated. They're always looking for ways to stab each other in the back.
These meatball motherfuckers always talk about how they got a code and rules and shit. Meanwhile, they just finding loopholes to stab each other in the back.
We only have to look at what Stefano recently had Marvin do in 401 and also in 402. The Italians really don't like getting their own hands dirty, and when they want to attack one of their own, they use someone else. They find a lot of ways to bend rules that they've put in place, which is why I still maintain none of these mafia Italian crime bosses can be trusted. On one side, you've got Stefano who will have no issues using Marvin and the Thomases to do his work. On the other side, now we might have Phil Russo using Unique to do his dirty work. Season 4 is a big chess game, just like Mackay Curtis teased in a recent interview. Everyone's playing, and they're literally just setting up the board as we enter the second half of the season, where no doubt we will see Unique coming out of the shadows. But as I mentioned, I don't think he can do this without Phil Russo. Now, why would Phil Russo want to work with Unique? I think it is a valid question we do have to ask. What does Unique have to offer him, and what can he do for him? I think this probably comes down to a very strange dynamic between the Italian crime bosses in New York. We know they have control over their own specific territory. They already have an existing arrangement where Stefano has control over Queens. Sal Buscemi used to have control over New Jersey, but he was taken out in 302. That hit was actually called by Stefano Marchetti himself. And that's the important thing I do think we have to remember. How did Phil Russo take this news? If he wants to take it to Stefano, then we know these Italian crime families aren't going to do it with their own people. Everything is kind of complicated with the Italians. But this is where Unique can come into the fold for someone like Phil Russo. Why not have him do his bidding for him? Phil Russo gives him the resources or backing, and Unique goes and takes all the risks in the streets, which I think he's willing to do anyway. Sometimes taking these streets and territory, you have to spill blood, just like we've seen before. So Phil Russo's move may potentially be with Unique, which is why come the end of season 4, things are going to be looking very different. They're just laying the breadcrumbs for a different game between the bosses. There's Stefano Marchetti, Quan, Rock, Unique, and now you also add Phil Russo to the board. So the way in which we've started season 4, with Rock building her empire, working under Quan, Kanan working under Rock, Stefano Marchetti having control over the territory in Queens, and so on. I genuinely don't think that's how season 4 will finish. Come the end of season 4, I think the board is going to be looking very different. I've said it before, I can see Unique ending up as a real winner of season 4, but when you kind of look at it even deeper, then that also means Phil Russo will also be winning, at the expense of Stefano Marchetti and Rock. In terms of the other players and where they fall come the end of season 4, I think if I've made the prediction of Unique being the winner, along with Phil Russo, then that means Rock is on the back foot and her empire probably crumbles, or is on the verge of crumbling. With Quan, I'm not too sure, apart from we know he isn't going to go down without a fight. We know Marvin's moves on the side won't end well either. With Kanan, it really is difficult to say where he's going to fall come the end of season 4. Earlier in the week I questioned, can Rock trust Kanan? And I think the genuine answer is, I don't think she can. So where will he be? Especially with Snaps and Pop's influence. And again, what influence will Snaps and Pop have on the game come the end of season 4? They're seasoned gangsters who are very well connected themselves, and I'm sure they'll also want a piece of the pie as well. So you can definitely see how the dynamics are really going to shift throughout this season. There's a lot of players involved and a lot of games that are being played. People are trying to position themselves in a position of strength and power. And let's see what the board is looking like come the end of season 4, especially when it comes to those guys at the top, Stefano Marchetti and Phil Russo. I also wouldn't be surprised to see law enforcement be involved, some players using dirty tactics to potentially take out their competition. Rock's done it before, and who knows, someone could definitely do it again. But the only thing we can definitely guarantee is, how we see the board at this moment in time, it will look different come the end of season 4. There's going to be a lot more twists and turns, that's for sure. So that's a breakdown of where we are at this moment in time as we head into Raising Kanan, episode 405. An episode where I do think we finally get our introduction to Phil Russo. I can see making an alliance with Unique because I think he's got a bone to pick with Stefano Marchetti. Everything revolves around territory, and I do think with the addition of Sal Buscemi's death, he might have Unique doing his dirty work. That's how we may see Phil Russo enter the picture. That's my opinion anyway, but the floor is now yours. Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section and let me know what you think. When Phil Russo is introduced, how do you guys see this changing the dynamics of the game in Raising Kanan? Drop all your thoughts down below in the comment section, and as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.